Hey there, Saber fans. Shamim here. Let's talk about Jordan Moll. It's no secret that he and I have been friends for several years. He's featured on this YouTube channel. We've done some joint Saber reviews together. We've looked at his favorite Sabers, some of my favorite Sabers. We both went to Star Wars Celebration together in, I think, 2017. We roomed together along with some other people, had a great time together. And for several years, I considered him a very good friend. And within the Saber community itself, as my commission list started growing larger and larger, and eventually I stopped taking on commissions because I thought this is too much. I need to just focus on what's on my plate and stop taking on more stuff. During that time, Jordan was also learning how to do his own installs. With asking me a lot of questions, asking questions of other people, doing his own research. And while I hadn't seen any of his work directly firsthand, I had seen some of the reviews that other customers had shared of his, and they were pretty positive. So because he was my friend and because he at that point was getting decent enough reviews from some of his customers, as I stopped taking on commissions, I started saying, well, I'm busy, and they would ask for, can you recommend someone? And I thought, well, you may want to try Jordan. He's one of my friends. It is probably, looking back on it now, is naive of me to not realize how much weight my words carried with some people. And that's something that I took as a casual statement of, you may want to look at him, or, I suggest Jordan, thinking that the person would also go and, maybe do some of their own research, talk to Jordan, make the decision for themselves. Turns out that a lot more weight was placed on my recommendation than I anticipated, and a lot of people took my recommendation as an endorsement of Jordan, his business, his install quality, his customer service, expecting to get something similar to what they might expect to receive from me because of the recommendation that I made. And so for the part that I have played in the current mess, for lack of a better word, that a lot of people find themselves in with Jordan, I do apologize. As people started coming forward and saying, is it normal for me to be waiting this long before I, get my commission back? Or is it normal for it to be many months past promised delivery dates? Is it normal for him to not have responded to me in several weeks? People would ask these things in public posts in some of the groups. People would message me these things directly, customers of his. And because I was a friend of Jordan, and because I was in regular-ish communication with him through text and Facebook, I knew about some of the personal stuff going on in his life, with work, with family, with health issues, the things that he told me. So I would, based on the information that I had from Jordan, assuage these people's fears and, basically encourage them to remain patient, that I'm sure he's very busy, but I'm sure that he'll get back to you. I know that he has some health things going on right now. I know that, his family has some stuff going on right now. So I'm confident that he'll respond to you. I'm confident that he'll get back to you. While at the same time making clear that, yes, delays happen, but hopefully good Sabersmiths and good customer service involves letting people know, keeping open lines of communication with their customers, with the community, letting people know when there's health issues, letting people know when there's family issues. And knowing and realizing that people will be very understanding of that for the most part. I myself have tried to be very open and forthright with my own customers. There are a lot of people on my list who have waited, a very significant period of time. But anytime that they ask for an update, I respond within, a day or two and let them know exactly what's going on. I'm very honest with them. Sometimes I'm like, I literally haven't thought about your commission because I'm dealing with X, Y, and Z. And I'm open and I'm honest with that. And they're like, that's totally cool. I just wanted an update. Make sure you haven't forgotten about me. And there have been one or two people who have requested refunds or, said I could really use the funds rather than a Saber right now. It's been a long time. And I'm like, that's perfectly fine. here's your money back. Here's, if there's sabers that I have to return, here's your sabers back, and we both go our ways, and absolutely no hard feelings, and that's perfectly fine. Jordan wasn't really able to do that, I think. And for a long time, I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, both for myself and then also sharing with people. And after he stopped taking commissions, after he had taken on hundreds of commissions, or what seemed like hundreds of commissions, and just kept taking on more and more and more commissions, and didn't really know when to stop himself. That's what it looked like anyway. It got so apparently overwhelming for him trying to deal with all these customers, asking for updates, asking for refunds, asking for their sabers back, that eventually he sort of shut down and ran away from Facebook. He ghosted, apparently, and then insisted that everyone just communicate with him via an email address. And even when people were trying to communicate and trying to get updates, trying to get status updates about their sabers, their commissions, their hundreds, if not thousands of dollars that they've paid for services and parts that weren't being addressed, they became understandably very frustrated and very worried. And more people in the community, for lack of better word, turned against Jordan. And his name sort of became synonymous with scam, with dishonesty, with just a lot of negative things. And just from on a human level, as someone who considered himself Jordan's friend for several years, watching all of that happen to him, there were two main emotions going on. One of them was sadness, obviously, that this is a friend of mine, and to see his name dragged through the mud, regardless of how much he deserved that criticism, and how much of it was maybe unfair. I'm not trying to determine a percentage there, but regardless, seeing all that happen with him was painful. I don't relish that. I don't want to see any member of this community dragged through the mud, especially someone who I'd roomed with, who had been very friends with, who had been close with. That was painful. On the other hand, as someone who is himself trying to run a business and trying to maintain a healthy, vibrant, active presence within the community, I looked at a lot of the things that Jordan was doing and saying and thought to myself, I would totally do that differently. And many times, Jordan and I had conversations, and I would try and give advice and suggestions to him and say, why don't you just do this? If you would just communicate this clearly with your customers in a timely manner, I'm sure that a lot of them would be very understanding. If you would just ship these things out, if you would just... We started talking less and less. I became less and less involved in hearing him vent about the problems that he was dealing with and the customers that he was dealing with, because it became a bit of a same old from him. And I wasn't seeing any progress being made on, his side in terms of returning sabers, refunding money. There's, of course, the group that was started for those who are waiting on refunds and return of sabers from Jordan on Facebook. And after one post that I had made on Facebook in the Vault Saber group, in support of Jordan Moll, or trying to explain what our history had been and trying to explain where I sort of stood on the whole messy situation, an individual who was critical of my still defending Jordan at that point invited me to join this group, and just to see how many people... how many of his customers were still, waiting for months at this point for updates on when they would be getting their sabers back, when they would be getting their requested refunds, and to share the email communication that had been going on between Jordan and some of his customers, so that I could, and so I accepted his request. I joined the group so I could sort of investigate for myself and see both sides of the story, because up until this point, I'd really been just hearing from Jordan, talking about what he was dealing with and what he was experiencing, and I hadn't been getting as much of the other side of the situation. Um, this was, I don't know, this was sort of late winter, early spring of this year of 2018. And at that point, even though he had deleted his Facebook, we still talked here and there through email and through text message. And throughout that previous year, as the group started and as more people started posting in the groups that, hey, I'm having these difficulties with Jordan. Has anyone else experienced this? Hey, is it normal for all this to be happening? It became harder and harder in the face of so many more people coming forward and saying that, like, this is happening to me and I'm still waiting for my parts. It became harder and harder to justify the things that I'd been saying. It became harder and harder to believe that Jordan still had, good intentions in his heart and that he wasn't a scammer or, these kinds of things. But in the face of, promised deadlines that he would say, it is shipping, it has shipped, it will ship, and then a month later finding out that, like, he doesn't even know where the saber is, or he hasn't, shipped out the part yet, or he shipped the wrong saber out, or whatever the situation is, it became more and more difficult to trust and believe what was happening. Backing up about a year, many of you know that Jordan had started printing his own chassis for sabers to hold the electronics inside the hilts. And I assumed that he had designed all of these himself and was printing them himself. That was the impression that I had. And he had offered to me, this was, a year or two ago, he had offered that anytime I needed chassis, he would print them for me and ship them to me so that I could use them in my own installs at a very, very low cost, essentially just for shipping, and like paying for the roll of the 3D printed filament. So we had that arrangement and understanding, and at that point, he was still relatively respected within the community. And so I took advantage of his generosity, and he would send me a lot of his chassis to use. As he fell more and more behind over that next year, 2017 into 2018, he fell more and more behind with his own commission work, and it became harder to depend on him for printing the chassis that I needed for my own commission work and my own personal projects. So in late winter, early spring of 2018, I asked him, hey, I have a local friend here who has a 3D printer. I have access to that now myself. Would you be willing to, like, sell me the rights to the files that you created for the chassis so that I could, have them printed here locally, less strain on you. I don't have to bug you every month to be like, hey, print me, 40, 50 chassis and ship them to me. Like, you don't have to worry about that. You can focus on your stuff, and then I can make sure that my stuff doesn't get delayed while I'm waiting for you. Because, like, at this point, I can see that a lot of people are emailing him constantly and wanting to get their stuff back, and so I always felt bad, like, adding something on top of that, but it's like, I need chassis, I'm all out, like, I need to do the work. So he said, yeah, that's fine. How does $250 sound, per chassis? And at that point, I was interested in two of the chassis that he said he had designed. So I had no idea how much, full rights to 3D printed files cost. And so I said, okay, that's fine. I know that you're also kind of in a financial difficult situation. People have been requesting a lot of refunds. So, here's $500, give me the files. Hopefully that helps to start refunding some of your own customers and dealing with your own financial stuff. That's great. So he sent me the files. I gave them to my local printer, and then we started printing them, and Jordan had indicated to me that you now have full rights, Shamim, to print these chassis, use them however you want, sell them, redistribute them, whatever you want. You have full ownership and full rights to these chassis. And I clarified with him before sending the payment, just to make sure you already own the rights to all these sabers. So, like, what I'm paying you for is something that you have the rights for already. And he's like, yep, nope, totally. I designed them. They're all mine. So I was like, great, sounds good to me. Let's do it. About a month later, someone in one of the groups indicated that one of the chassis that Jordan claimed that was his, that I had bought from him, was not actually designed by Jordan. So this was, curious to me. So I investigated, got in contact with the individual who this person claimed designed the chassis, Kang Mai, and spoke with him. Showed him pictures of the chassis, and I'm like, are either of these two yours? And he's like, the one on the left is not mine, but the one on the right is definitely mine. And he then proceeded to, so I went back and forth with him. I had never really spoken with Kang before then. I hadn't really seen any of his work. So I had no reason to doubt anything that he was saying. Like, there was no ulterior motive on his point. He didn't bring this information to me. It's like, hey, look what your friend Jordan's doing. Like, I approached him and asked him, and I didn't even mention Jordan's names. I was like, are either of these your designs? And without even knowing that it was Jordan involved, he's like, that one is mine. So I had no reason to doubt what Kang was telling me. And throughout the course of my conversation, both with Kang and with Jordan going on sort of simultaneously, Kang was providing a lot of evidence that I found very compelling and very believable. I found his, the answers to the questions that I asked him that he gave were very direct and very open and very honest, it seemed to me. Whereas the information I was getting with Jordan was contradictory, was accusatory, was defensive, and did not ring true to me. I sent Kang, I asked Kang to send me, the file that he sent to Jordan. So he went back into his Facebook history 2 years ago, found the files that he had sent to Jordan, and sent those to me. And I compared it with the file that Jordan had just sent me a month ago, and they were identical. The explanation Jordan tried to give was that he and Kang developed them together, which was different from the original story I got, was that Jordan developed them himself, and the design was all his. I asked Kang, was there any understanding between you and Jordan that, Kang, you may have designed these, but Jordan has full rights to, sell them and do whatever he wants, redistribute them? And Kang was like, nope, absolutely no kind of deal like that was ever struck between me and Jordan. So, before I even mentioned that Jordan had sold these to me for $250 each, Kang said, if you want these files, I'll give them to you for free. You can sell them, you can print them, you can redistribute them, you do whatever. I don't even want to make any money off of them. I just designed them for kicks and giggles, for my own commissions. You can have them. And he sent me all the chassis files himself for free. The same files that Jordan charged me $250 for, claiming that they were his. So at that point, at the end of those conversations, my personal trust in Jordan was shaken, I think, irreparably at that point, And so I went a little more back and forth with Jordan, and he offered a refund for the chassis. And at that point, I was so disheartened and exhausted researching all of this and trying to make sense of what Jordan was telling me and comparing it with what Kang was saying, that I didn't even have the energy to try and figure out whether Jordan had actually designed the second chassis or not, because there were two chassis I bought from Jordan. One of them Kang said was his. Jordan offered a refund on that one. The second chassis, I haven't been able to determine whether Jordan designed it or whether it was Kang or Thomas Snyder or Robert Sotomayor or someone else. I have no idea. And I didn't have the energy or the patience at that point to really find out. And I chalked up the other $250 of the chassis to a loss in the event that it was designed by somebody else. So yeah, then at that point, my name was added to the long list of people who were awaiting and who had requested and had been promised refunds by Jordan for services not rendered. So fast forward several months, and this is what today is, Monday. So last night, Sunday night, I got into a conversation with Jordan. He still had not shipped a large number of sabers, a couple dozen sabers and parts and commissions still in his possession. He hadn't shipped back, and very, very few refunds had been processed. Dozens of people, according to their own testimony in the group, still awaiting partial or full refunds. And so Jordan and I got into a conversation which basically ended in him accusing me of not supporting him enough, accusing me of being afraid of the mob, running away from the mob and letting the mob dictate my behavior. Which was very ironic to me, coming from the guy who literally had deleted all of his social media presences because dealing with his customers got too hard. So I had it out with Jordan over the course of that conversation. It was enraging to me. I could not believe the accusations that I read that he hurled at me, that I had not supported him, that I had abandoned him, that I had to pick a side between him and all of his mob of haters, and that he compared support that he had given to me over years with the lack of support that I had apparently shown him over the last year or so. And anyone who knows me knows that I have gone to bat for Jordan Moll, both privately and publicly, numerous times, to my own detriment. You know, I have no small share of people who dislike me because of my association with Jordan Moll, who dislike me because I did not condemn him earlier. And even now, there will be people, I'm sure, who will think that this video is too little too late, that this video is, should have come out a year ago, and that I am a horrible person because I was ever a friend of Jordan Moll. And that's fine if you believe that. I don't care. You can believe whatever you want. I know what's in my heart. And the people who have seen me make public posts in support of Jordan, in support of who I considered a friend, know that I was very sympathetic towards his customers, and I was very critical of the business decisions that Jordan made. I never tried to excuse his behavior, rather just to try and explain what I understood based on my conversations with him. I would tell Jordan over the course of the last year or so, hey, I said this in support of you. Hey, there were people who were asking about this, and I tried to calm down their fears. I tried to encourage patience. I tried to give you the benefit of the doubt over and over and over again in these groups. And I had to tell him these things because at this point he had deleted his Facebook, so he was not seeing any of the posts that I made in these private groups that, thousands of people are part of. So I had to share these things with him. He had no idea what was happening. The only thing he knew what was happening was some of the emails that he would keep getting and ignoring, most of them from his customers. So I share all this with him over the last year, and almost every single time he says, Shamim, you don't have to go to bat for me. Shamim, I'm not asking you to support me. Shamim, I'm not asking you to be my spokesperson. I don't need you to explain me and my actions to them. I don't care about the mob. I will deal with the mob. Just don't get involved in the mob. And I don't need you supporting them. So for him to have been saying that over the last year, and then to try and turn everything around on me in this conversation that he and I had last night, trying to say that I never supported him when I was supporting him to my own detriment, and then him telling me, I don't need you to support me, you don't have to do that for me, it enraged me. And I could not believe what I was hearing, what I was reading from him. And so a very, very long message later, I said, I don't ever want to hear from you again, Jordan. The only time I ever want to hear from you is to receive an email notification from PayPal that you have refunded $250 to my account as I've requested and as you've promised you'd give me. Up until then, I have nothing further to say to you. And after that happens, I will have nothing further to say to you. So at the end of this, 20-minute long video, I have officially cut all ties with Jordan. I do not consider him a friend. I feel that any trust that was left in the friendship has irrevocably been shattered and broken. I'm pretty sure that I'm the last person in the Saber community to have held even the smallest modicum of respect for him. I'm pretty sure that no one else is around to that gives him the benefit of the doubt in any of the Saber groups. So this is on you, Jordan. You burned your last bridge to the Saber community. You broke the trust of your last friend, the last person who in any way had any portion of your back, or who was trying to make sense of anything that you did, trying to explain some of your actions to the community to try and have some kind of resolution. The number of times that I encouraged you to respond to your customers better, the number of times I encouraged you to just go ahead and refund people. He has his excuses, of course, of why he's not refunding people and why he's not sending sabers back to people. And none of those excuses make sense to me. His mode of operation does not make sense to me. I cannot understand him any further. So I've removed all the videos in which he featured on my channel. And I really just needed to... I felt the need to make a video, to make a public statement, both on YouTube and Facebook and, you know, all areas that I operate, that this is where my friendship with Jordan stands. This is where my relationship with him currently stands. I do not ever see any kind of friendship or relationship reforming between the two of us. And at the same point at the same time that I grieve for that friendship that is lost personally as a human being, I also am relieved that I no longer have to be associated with this really stain upon the community. I think he's done a lot of damage to the reputation of independent sabersmiths, myself included. A lot more customers are on watch, are on guard. And in some ways it's good that people are a bit more, you know, they're a little bit more wary, you know, when they want to spend hundreds of dollars on a saber commission. They're going to vet their installer a little bit more closely as a result of Jordan and some other people in the community, some of these Insta-smiths who have popped up, scammed people for money, done horrible work, shoddy work, and then ghosted, run away. So hopefully this leads to fewer people being taken advantage of. Sorry, this is an unscripted, you know, video, and I can't talk about electronics, so that's, or my love of Star Wars, so it's forgive the pauses, and as I sort of try and gather my thoughts. It was a very upsetting conversation that I had last night with Jordan. It's been a long time since I've been that angry at someone that I had a close relationship with, and there have been I've been lucky in my friendships that there have been very, very few times where a friendship has, you know, diverged so much and trust has been broken so much that I've had to disassociate myself completely from someone. So again, to summarize, for the part that I had to play in anyone who was affected by Jordan Moll, for those who trusted my word and my recommendation, I apologize sincerely for that. There came a time, of course, I think too late by that point, where I realized that enough people were having issues and difficulties with Jordan that it was not just isolated incidents of neglect or poor customer service or whatnot, but it became a pattern, and more people kept coming forward. At that point, I stopped referring people to Jordan, but at that point, there already were dozens and dozens of people who either through conversation with me or through, you know, their own investigation fell upon Jordan, decided that, hey, his videos are cool. He seems to be popular. He's an admin in one of the groups, so he can't be that bad. And so people commissioned him to do work. And I wish that Jordan had been more careful with how many commissions he accepted. I wish that he had been more open and honest with how he communicated with his customers. I would see examples of the messages that he would send to people, and I was astonished a lot of the times. How could you talk to a customer in that way? This is someone who has been waiting for months and months and months for a piece of art from you. They've entrusted you with their precious empty sabers, sent hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to you for commission work. And for you to not be able to respond eloquently, clearly, honestly, openly, and in a timely manner to these people consistently is poor customer service. So earlier, I think I didn't want to give a percentage, but I do think that like 95% of this whole situation is of Jordan's own making. And so I had very little sympathy for him on a professional level. On a personal level, of course, I had a great deal of sympathy for him and what he was going through on his side, the difficulties that he and his family have faced. But on the other hand, more and more of the negativity was happening, more and more of the lies and dishonesty and just blatant mischaracterizations of truth were coming out of him and his business. While I think that there are, some who take their frustration with Jordan to an extreme, that would be the people who send death threats to him and his family. I'm not so jaded in my friendship with Jordan that I would ever condone such things. So if any of you have done, that to Jordan or his wife or his family, I have no support for you in that course of action. I think that's heinous and despicable, to send death threats to someone, even over hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars that you may have lost. I don't think that's ever appropriate. So just want to throw that out there. And you can dislike me for that, I don't care. I'm a human being I don't think it's ever appropriate to threaten the life of another human being, especially over just money and toys. Anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I want to say about this. My voice is getting hoarse. If Jordan happens to be watching this video, he may have deleted his accounts, but he can still go and search YouTube. If Jordan happens to be seeing this, send people stuff back, man. Take out a loan, make refunds. If your PayPal account and bank account have been frozen because people have made so many claims against your PayPal account and your bank account, get a loan, use your wife's account, use one of your kids' accounts, open up a new account, do something, get a loan, send everybody their money back, and be rid of this mess for yourself and for everyone else. Then everyone can move on. And by your own admission, you will never be welcome in the Saber community again. You've burned every single bridge that you had to this group. I'm pretty sure I was the last rung on the ladder, and it's broken now. And professionally and as a member of the community, I'm not sorry about that. I'm glad to be disassociated with you, your business practices, the way that you've conducted yourself. Personally, there will always be a part of me that remembers fondly the friendship that we had, the times that we've spent together, the laughs that we had. But that friendship is incongruous now with the kind of business that you run and the kind of person that you've apparently become. And I haven't seen evidence to the contrary, and at this point I really don't care to see evidence to the contrary to try and reforge any kind of friendship. So as far as I'm concerned, we're done. And I think that's as good a point as any to leave this video. Again, very sorry to everyone who has been affected by Jordan Moll. I myself am out $250, which I don't expect to ever see back. I hope I do. But it's really just a very, very small amount compared to the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of hundreds and thousands of dollars that some people are out and that they are waiting for. So it's just a mess. And it is one that is almost entirely of Jordan's own making. If he had made better decisions at numerous points along the process, this all could have been avoided. Thank you all so much for watching, and may the Force be with you.